I'm with Rachel Touiou from Sav'n. Now, Rachel, what is Sav'n?
Well, Tzav 9, Tzav Teisha. It's the name of the organization, of the movement, is a reference to Tzav 8, Tzav 8, which is the formal official paper that a reservist gets when they need to go to war, when they are called. So we basically took it to say that this is our reserve job as civilians. The main purpose is to prevent the so-called humanitarian aid to get to Gaza, because we know that in the end, this aid gets mostly 70 to 80% of it, of these trucks that pass each day the Kerem Shalom frontier border, they get back to the hands of Hamas. As we are in war with Hamas, Israel is at war with Hamas, and they take this humanitarian aid and resell them to the civilian population at the higher price, as well as they keep to themselves part of it to continue the fightings. They keep to themselves the fuel that we get to the civilians, so-called. So we think that this is not the way to achieve victory for our people. And as we are at war and we have still more than 130 people hostages in Gaza as of today, and it's the 114, I think, day of the war, we cannot continue like this. We have people fighting in Gaza, and we need to secure and put them at the least risk possible.
Where have you been protesting at?
Where were we? We were directly at the front of the border Kerem Shalom. Today, we also managed to block for the first time the Nitzana border, which is a secondary border to Gaza, where we know that trucks are passing from Egypt to Israel to get inspected and then to go back to Gaza.
But you're actually able to stop the trucks from going into the Gaza Strip.
We managed to do that 5 days consequently, like how do we say, in a row. Yes.
Yeah.
Yesterday, unfortunately, we didn't. Today, we did. Yesterday, we didn't. We tried, but unfortunately, of course, Netanyahu, the government, and sent an order to the army to really be prepared for us and to not let us do that. So we didn't manage yesterday, but today we did. Each time we try to succeed, and we have hundreds of people that join us, and each day other people come and try to help us achieve our purpose.
What kind of people are actually coming down to protest?
So, as I said earlier, it's a civilian movement with really grassroots on the most basic terms. People, young people, old people, women, men, children, religious, secular people, right, left. I think it's like the first time in a lot of time, especially in the last years, that we have a consensus that the Israeli population, and I'm saying it globally because I really see different kinds of Israelis protesting, that it's the first time that we see that it's like a consensus that we should not let this humanitarian aid, packed up by UNRWA, by the way, the same UNRWA who is now inspected under all the governments of the Western world who finance this organization. We shouldn't continue. This is a consensus.
So are you going to do this until the hostages come home?
If we have to, yes. We are prepared. Like I said, even when we fail, like yesterday, it just makes us and the people who are watching us and who are staying in touch with us, they are just they have the more drive to do it, because we really think that this is the most justified cause we can do. And everybody has to do what we can to help Israel.
I imagine you're at risk of arrest from the government. So are you prepared to even go to jail for this?
There are righteous causes. I'm not saying that we are prepared to do, and we're not trying to do anything outlaw. We are not using violence. I can tell you that the policemen and the army people who are there, the soldiers who are there at the borders, they cannot tell you this, but you can see it in their eyes that they are with us. We know it. These people are the same people who lost friends on the October 7th. We should not forget this. So they're doing their jobs. We are protesting non-violently, but we are protesting. And we hope that we should send the message not only to our government, but outside as well. We know that we need to trust our government to bring us to victory and to do the strategic moves. But at the same time, we need to make sure that the government is not caving in or caving to some kind of international pressures, maybe from the US, maybe from the EU. We need to make sure that our message, the voice of the Israelis, is heard. And Israelis don't want this humanitarian aid to continue to get in. They don't want to, because they know it gets to Hamas.
So are you're actually doing this for the sake of the hostages, are you?
Of course we are. We are. We have no expectations regarding Hamas. We know, or anybody, by the way, in Gaza. I mean, we know now that teachers, doctors, so-called civilians keep and kept hostages. I don't have any expectations from them. I have expectations from my government. And we're doing this because we know that not only this humanitarian aid is probably not getting to our hostages, it also prevents and makes the fight harder to our soldiers who are there with two purposes: to bring them back and to destroy Hamas.
Are you hearing anything about the conditions of the hostages at all?
No, no, we only hear what we see from, first of all, the propaganda videos that we see from Hamas. You can see it. You can never hide it. Even if they say what they are told to say, you can see it on their face. You can see it that they are in a bad condition. And we can only relate to the stories that we hear from the people who came back from Gaza.
How does it make you feel to know that there are still about 130, 40 hostages still in Gaza?
It's a nightmare. It's something, well, since October 7, I feel like we Israelis were shoved into like a parallel world, a nightmare, hell. We've been through hell as a society, and this hell is not over, and it will not be finished until all our people are back safe to their families.
How did you hear about the terrorist attack that happened on the 7th of October? And as the day unfolded, were you really, really surprised and shocked at the barbarity and the massacre
Yes.
that happened in Israel?
So how did I hear? I heard it with the red siren. I live in Ranana, which is near Tel Aviv. When I woke up at 6 a.m. with the sirens, I knew that it was unusual and that meant something bad, but we did not at any moment imagine the atrocity, the level of barbarity of what we would be watching live on TV. Because let me remind you, it happened on a Saturday, which is Shabbat, but it also happened on a Saturday, which was a holiday. It was Sukkot. And in Israel, it's a holiday. It's a really great time to be in Israel, by the way, at that time of year. And we woke up at that, and we knew that if they were firing at Tel Aviv, it meant something more than just firing. Unfortunately, I'm saying this. Unfortunately, firing just to the south. So we knew it was something, but we imagined that we would start an operation, another round, like we do, like it always happens. And now we saw it online. We saw people. We immediately opened the TV and we immediately watched the news, and then the reality, the atrocious reality just unfolded right in front of our eyes, and we were shocked and we were unable to realize or breathe. And that's the way it's been since then. We are hooked to the TV, we are hooked to the news, and any piece of information, any piece of anything, we are just hoping, and it's like roller coaster. You have your hopes highs, and then you have a lot of downs, and then back up and then back down. This is a nightmare.
Why did you personally want to get involved in the protests?
Because I think that today there's no more righteous cause that could justify to protest in the midst of a war than this one. When I know the hypocrisy of the world, they don't know, they're not there. They get their information directly. Unfortunately, they know they get from UNRWA and which is Hamas, which is like a UN branch of Hamas. They get their information from the Ministry of Health of Hamas, and this information is not reliable. They're not living what we live. And when people say, well, you should bring them electricity, you should bring them food, or you should bring them, and most importantly, you should bring them fuel. What I see is that, first of all, these humanitarian aids, and this is not from Israeli media that we see, it's from Al Jazeera or Arab coverage. We see that this humanitarian aid gets directly to the hands of Hamas, with no way for the international community to make sure that it gets to the civilian population who really need it. And it's okay. Are we supposed to accept it? And second of all, Netanyahu said at the beginning of the war to the Israeli population, there are lines that I will not cross, and fuel was one of them. And the general feeling of Israelis is that he caved in to international pressure. So is it a strategic move because we don't know information? That we cannot know. We know only what we are told and what we see. And what we see is that Hamas is fighting from tunnels. Tunnels are kept in activity with electricity, which is kept in activity thanks to fuel that Israeli people, like the Israeli government, lets in. That's the mathematics.
I guess as well, there's an argument that Hamas have all these tunnels and they can get rockets in these tunnels, so surely they can get their own aid through these tunnels as well.
And yet you see them in the trucks taking control and you know, how do you say, it's threatening civilians who try to take the food and the stuff.
Mm.
So it says something also to their capacity today. Our
Yeah,
purpose is to help our people in Gaza, not just the hostages, which unfortunately we don't have. The only element of pressure that we can do is, first of all, to prevent the fuel. This is the main thing, the fuel, to prevent the fuel to get to Hamas, because this is not helping, this is endangering our soldiers, which is my brother, my cousin, the husband of my cousin, whatever. We are all, you know, all concerned with this subject. We all have people in Gaza right now in some way or the other. And second of all, you can see as of last week a couple of protests of Gazan civilians against Hamas. And this is also in the interest of Israel. Because in the end, these people, if they really want to live in peace, and I sure hope that they do, even though after the 7th of October, I still have my doubts sometimes about the ethics of the way that they are brought up and the way that they are educated to hate beyond everything else. I really think that they should overthrow Hamas and we should encourage this. We should encourage this. And the first signs of it is with the thing that they don't have enough humanitarian aid. They say, stop Hamas. We want to go back to our homes, free the hostages. And that's what we want. We want that. So it is in the interest of Israel.
with the massacre that happened on the 7th of October and the butchering that they committed and the
Yeah.
genocide that they committed, are you shocked now to see that Israel is actually in the dock for genocide and how the world has just reacted to Israel defending itself?
This is an interesting question. I am French Israeli. I made Aliyah 20 years ago. And as a kid, I always asked myself, how could the world deny the Holocaust? How can you even think about denying massacres? And I got the proof of that after the 7th of October. I don't ask myself this question anymore, unfortunately. You can see it, and I saw it. It took at least 50 years to Holocaust deniers to start talking and expressing themselves without shame. Now it's live. You can see, it doesn't matter who, if Hamas posts their own videos, which they did. Maybe, unfortunately, I can say luckily in some way, it's atrocious what I'm saying. But what would have happened if the information came from Israel? It didn't come from Israel. It didn't come from the media. It didn't come from, not even from, you know, like security cameras from building or whatever. It came directly from them. They were proud to publish these atrocities. They were proud to say, I killed Jews. They didn't say free Palestine. They didn't say stop the occupation. No, they say Allahu Akbar, Aybach el Yahud. And the world denies it live. Not even a week, 2 weeks. Even before that, the IDF retaliated or entered and started the war, like officially with Gaza and started to fight back. We were under the shock. We saw the entire country being paralyzed by the level of atrocity that we've went through in these 48 hours that until we started to have a clear picture of the level of the 7th of October. And the world denies it. So I'm not surprised about anything. One thing is sure, and I'm speaking personally on my behalf only, is that sometimes I think about that. Maybe I've lost hope on humanity when I see this. I have family living in France from the Jewish community, of course, and they are scared. They are hiding their Judaism. Every morning I have my aunt, she wakes up and she looks outside her door to make sure that there's no Magen David, the David Star outside. I mean, it's creepy, it's scary, it's terrifying. And words lack of gravity. It's not, the words are too short and too not strong enough. They're too weak to express the level. As of the Hague court, I think I would say it's a shame, but we are beyond that. It's an hypocrisy. It's like a theater. It's like for me, watching this, I was like, this is like a show. Are we like, this is a satire? What's going on? What's going on? Really? You are accusing us of genocide? The Palestinians in Gaza and in general, if you see the demographic charts, you can see that their population has grown by at least 20% in as many of years. So either we are really bad at genociders, we should not continue pursuing. Israelis are good at what they do, but apparently we're not really good at this. And this is not what's going on. This is not what's going on in Israel. We are fighting a terror organization who rules in Gaza, who would be elected in the West Bank if elections were to happen at some point in the West Bank. And it's a bad situation. And it's a situation that I really blame the international community for that. And I'll explain why. When you have an organization as UNRWA, which their members are the employees of UNRWA, mostly Palestinians living in the West Bank or in Gaza, and when these people take part, active part in terror attacks, there is a problem. There's a problem. And when you have the EU who funds educational books, and in those books, you don't see the map of Israel at all, not in the 67 border, not in some kind of capacity. There is no such a thing. There is a problem. When you see children, don't matter what kind of age, but from early childhood, you see children getting their educational programs in mathematics with problems of, if I kill 10 Jews and you kill 2, how many Jews are left? There is a problem. And we are just perpetuating the conflict, and as if maybe it's an interest of who exactly? What's going on? Why not dismantle UNRWA and bring the Palestinian refugee subject to UNHCR like other refugees? Why do they enjoy a special status? This special status only perpetuates the conflict. It doesn't bring it to an end. And I think that for the first time, maybe because of the level of atrocity and the things that we discovered, that the world discovered, because Israel has been claiming this, the thing about UNRWA for years now, and it was like, you cannot touch UNRWA. Now, maybe because of the level of atrocity and the fact that you have doctors, teachers, people working for UNRWA who participated and are proud of the massacres of the 7th of October, maybe now we will finally be able to discuss the real subject. The Palestinian refugee status is different from all the other refugees in the world. Why not UNRWA for the Sudanese, for example? Why not UNRWA for the Yemenites or for the Syrians? Nothing? What are they different from other refugees in the world?
What is your prayer, your hope for Israel at this time?
I want to turn this Kippur war, because that's how it started, we were not prepared, to the 60-day war. That's my hopes for Israel. To finish this war in the best of ways for us. And it would be, of course, the freeing, the liberation of our hostages, the destruction of Hamas. And yes, making sure that the Palestinians in Gaza are not it will be a long process, that they will not, at the end of this process, will stop being indoctrinated to hate towards Israelis and toward Jews in general. Because in the end, they're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I don't plan to go anywhere. The people of the South who were directly hit by this horrible terror attack are not going anywhere. Most of them say we just want to go back to our home and rebuild, because that's the Jewish soul, that's the Jewish spirit. We bring light and we bring life where death was there. We're used to this, unfortunately. So that's my hopes for Israel. I wouldn't want to see the war escalate and be a regional war, though we know that Iran is behind it. And I think that at some point, we will have to address Iran, and I hope that it will be with the help of the world. But again, we were proven, unfortunately, that Israel is alone, and it will have to be making sure that it defends itself, even if it means staying alone. We don't have a choice.
Well, Rachel, thank you very much for sharing today.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much.